So in this demonstration, we're going to see how easy it is for anybody to stand up an entirely new RAC environment, including the grid infrastructure installation, the ASM configuration, and finally the creation of the RAC database. So upon logging into the Robin console, we're brought immediately to the dashboard. What we want to do is just go straight to the application bundle screen, where in this case we just have a couple of simple bundles, one of which is our RAC bundle. So we'll just simply click on that, and upon doing so we're immediately presented with the provisioning workflow associated with this application. And we will name our application. In this case we'll just call it ORCL RAC demo. And we've got a couple of network interfaces we need to consider because it is RAC. Both the public and private IP address ranges are available here. This is where we specify the public address because this is how the application will receive connection requests. We've got the ability to specify the size of the cluster, both in terms of the number of nodes, the amount of compute and memory capacity. And then we have the ability to shape the way in which the database will be laid out. In this case, we are going to change the default from flash to spinning disk because we, in this case, don't have enough flash available for this particular deployment. And then we will move down here to specify our private interconnect IP address. And actually, we need to go back up here. We can't forget to specify our SCAN, single client address name, for RAC. So we get that specified, and then we'll scroll on down. We can find a number of other environment variables which may be passed through Robin for this deployment. We've got the ability to define how we will declare ASM disk group redundancy, various credentials, and then we have our placement rules where we can control how these resources will be deployed on the physical Robin cluster. And in this case, we need to be able to allow for multiple RAC instances on the same physical node in the cluster because we only have 2 nodes in our demo environment. Simply clicking on Provision Application from that screen will kick off the deployment of our RAC environment, and goes through a number of different phases, beginning with deployment of the vNodes, or the actual virtual nodes or pods in the cluster, running a variety of scripts to complete the configuration of the RAC environment itself from an Oracle perspective through the OUI, and then really just in a matter of minutes we have our entirely fresh new RAC environment up and running. So we're brought to the application screen specific to our new application. We can see our 2 nodes. We can see the public and private IP addresses associated with each of these, and the names of the hosts, the actual physical nodes on which these are running in the Robin cluster. And Robin makes it real easy just to jump straight into a container for an application directly from the user interface. And so by clicking on one of our RAC nodes, we're brought to a shell prompt for that particular node. And if we log in as Oracle and set our Oracle environment, we can do some verification here just to make sure that our RAC database was in fact successfully deployed and is up and running. And so we can do that through just the traditional means by which a DBA would ordinarily do this type of thing. We go into SRVCTL, do a status database on our newly created Robin database. So we can see that we do in fact have 2 instances, Robin 1, Robin 2, successfully running on both nodes. We can do some other things. We can query CRS to see some of the other cluster managed resources out there, like including our VIPs and the ONS daemon, etc. And we might as well just go ahead and log into the database, and we can just do a simple query. In this case, we'll just query GB dollar instance views to just to get a glimpse as to from that perspective what instances are up and running, and we'll check the status of the database as it relates to the 2 instances. So we can see the database is fully active on both nodes, and we can simply get out of SQL Plus, exit out entirely, and we're brought back to the UI. And that's as simple as that. One click deploys a 2-node RAC database with ease.